Hello, everyone. Welcome to CARE's Google Hangout. For those of you who listened earlier, I'm very sorry about the technical glitches. I hope we can change that now and that it works out better, but let's just try again. So why we're here today, why we're doing this Google Hangout? That's because that tomorrow, on June 20, the world will celebrate World Refugee Day. But maybe celebrate is the wrong word because there's actually nothing to celebrate about. There are 40 million refugees, there are 40 million people who had to leave their homes behind because of war and conflict. 40 million people who had to leave their homes, who had to leave their families, who saw family members and friends killed, and who have to struggle to survive in a new environment. That's quite a staggering number. I mean, 40 million people, if you try to imagine that, that's kind of like as if the entire population of Canada would have fled, or half the population of Germany. But behind these staggering numbers, there's one and each story of one and each refugee or person who has been displaced. And what we're trying to do today is to bring you closer to these stories. We have 4 panelists with us who are all refugees. They had to flee their homes. We have 3 refugees with us from Syria, and we have 1 refugee from Somalia. But they're not just refugees, they also work for CARE as volunteers or as staff for CARE or for our partner organizations. So let me introduce you to our participants, and let's start first with my colleague Ali. Ali is from Syria. He's Palestinian Syrian. He is in Lebanon now. He's 26 years old, and he works for one of CARE's partner organizations. So Ali, why don't you just go ahead and tell us a little bit about your life in Lebanon now?
Hi all, thank you very much. I'm Ali Abdi, Palestinian Syrian. I'm a civil engineer. I'm working actually now in the partner of CARE International, DPNA. It's an NGO working to support now the Syrian refugees who fled to Lebanon with the emergency and relief. I'm working with them actually to raise awareness on the humanitarian situation of the Syrian refugees in Lebanon. I'm really happy today because I'm talking to you all because I want to just send messages for the world through you. The first one, it's nobody choose to be refugee. Refugee, it's something coming by crisis, as you said. As I told you, I'm Palestinian Syrian. I was living in a place named Al Yarmouk. It's a place for the Palestinian refugees in Syria. I was living there after my grandmother fled from Palestine to Syria. There was in Al Yarmouk a million of Palestinian refugees, but almost they fled after the bad situation in Syria. So until now, I'm refugee for 2 times. The first time when I born, the second time it's now because I came here with my family. And actually, I have a good refugees here in Lebanon because through my work in emergency to support some project through the PNA, the place I'm working there. The Syrian refugees in Lebanon are actually in not very good situation. The NGOs is supporting the refugees here, but it's not enough. Almost the refugees, they don't have the minimum standard for the normal life as a person because they are as a 50% from the children now the refugees children are out of school, are working, are children and working at the same time. They need education, medical, and good place to live in. I hope this situation will not be for anyone. I hope all the refugees back to their country and their normal life. But I hope to the Somalian refugees, the Syrian refugees, the Palestinian refugees back to their country and be in the safe life because really nobody choose to be a refugee. Uh, Maybe anyone can hear me now will be in one day, and I don't hope to be for anyone, as I told you.
Okay, thank you
Thank you
very
very
much.
much.
Thanks, Ali. That was really, really good. Thank you very much. Let me introduce you our second panelist. What we're doing is we'll have each panelist telling us for a few minutes about their story, and then you will have all the chance to ask questions. We already received a few questions. And again, let me reiterate, you can still ask your questions via the Care Jordan Twitter account or the Care Jordan Facebook account. But let's go on to our second panelist, which is Nada Dali. Nada is from Damascus. She is 30 years old, and she used to be a teacher. She used to study English literature in Damascus, and now she is in Jordan, in Amman, in the capital city of Jordan, and she works also as one of our volunteers in the center. So now let's go over to Nada. Nada, you're there?
I'm here.
Hello, Nada. Maybe, Nada, can you tell us a little bit how it was in Syria when you fled, and what are you doing now in Jordan?
Hello, everyone. For me, it was very difficult at the beginning to leave my hometown and to be a refugee. I was living in a very nice place in Damascus. I love that city a lot, but suddenly I had to leave because I need a safe place for my children and my family. Therefore, we decided to run away to Jordan, and we are here now in Amman. At the beginning, it was very difficult for me to accept the idea of being a refugee and to get on well and socialize with people. It was difficult to start. I was disappointed at the very beginning. I was hopeless. I lost my job and I am homeless. Later on, I started to get on with the new situation. I had to because life never stops. There I try to get on with the society, try to communicate with people and complete my life.
Okay, thank you, Nada. I don't know if the connection just stopped. We will hear more from you when we'll ask you a few questions later. So thank you very much. And let me introduce our third panelist, Abdi. Abdi Hussein Noor. He's 23 years old, and he is a refugee from Somalia. Abdi lives in a refugee camp called Dadaab in Kenya, and he's been there for 20 years. So he came to the camp when he was 3 years old. He went to schools which were supported and built up by CARE, and now he's also working for us. He is a teacher, and he's helping other Somali refugees learning IT technologies, and actually he's doing something really cool. He's helping people set up cyber cafes in Dadaab, and he's now sitting in one of those cyber cafes. Abdi, hello, how are you?
Hello, fine. As you have said, my name is Abdi Hussein Noor, Somali refugee who is living in the Dadaab refugee camps, world biggest refugee camp, as people said. I'm just now living with my parents. As you have said, I came here 1991. Now I'm just 26 years old. I came here when I was just 3 years old. Now I've just grown up here, and the refugee life is full of challenge, really. I've grown up here. I've started my primary, secondary. Now I'm just learning university. As we have said now, I'm just now teaching computer, Skype, ICT. Then that's how we stay in our living standard, the refugee camp. The life of refugee is very complicated, really. you need just to stay in a living standard, health facility, water, everything. Then everything just you have to provide. Although the humanitarian agents are providing the health facility, water, education, those things are not enough. Surely, then at least you have to struggle to stay in a living standard to come up with those things. Then care and some of the organization have tried to train the people how to stay in a living standard. Then that's how I've grown up. I was just learn primary education, secondary. Now I'm not just learning university. Then I'm willing. I'm staying here with a hope. Really, I have a hope to go back to my homeland, which is Somalia, uh, and then to live peacefully and prosperity. Surely.
Thank you very much, Abdi. That was really interesting, and thank you. And I really hope that that your hope comes through one day. Let me switch over to our last panelist, Nasreen. Nasreen is also a refugee from Syria. She is living in the refugee camp of Azraq in Jordan. The refugee camp of Azraq is a very new camp. It's the second camp in Jordan that was just opened 2 months ago. So Nasreen, I'm switching over to you. Can you tell us a little bit about your story?
Thank you very much. I'm Nasreen. I'm from Syria. I come here after I lost my house, my brother, and everything in Syria. I decided to leave Syria to Jordan to see my husband in the hospital. Then after the journey, our journey to here is journey of the death, because we walked on our feet for 10 hours in the desert. Then we arrived with my family to the border between Jordan and Syria. At last, we arrived to Azraq's camp. There are many organizations to help people to live here, but the weather here is very bad. It's very hot at the day and cold at the night. So we live here with many people. So I saw here beautiful things such as medicine schools. I'm a teacher in a school in Azraq's camp. I teach girls from Syria from 12 to 15 years. Everything here is new. So in the future, it will be very good.
Thank you, Nasreen. That was a very good first interesting introduction into the Azraq refugee camp in Jordan.
Yes.
So we have received a few questions actually for all of you. So I'm going to ask each of you a few questions. So let's start. Actually, there's a first question that came in through Facebook, which is a question for Nada. And Ann Lu is asking, Nada, do you have daily contacts with people from Jordan, basically, other than aid workers? And how are you living together with Jordanians? Is it peacefully, or are there even any, how is the hospitality?
Frankly, Jordanian people are very friendly and they are very nice. But the problem was that at the beginning it was difficult for me to get on with the society because everything was, but later on I get on well with everybody. I have nice neighbors, nice friends, and I participate in many organizations with Jordanian people, and I'm happy doing that.
Thank you, Nada. We got another question from Pierre Antoine, and I'm going to ask this question to Ali. Pierre Antoine is asking Ali, how did you run away in Syria? How did you basically flee your area, and how did you come to Lebanon? Did you come alone, or did you come with your family?
Actually, at the beginning, my place, Al Yarmouk camp, was safe place in Syria. It was the target for a lot of people around around this place, and they start to take Al Yarmouk as a safe place to live in. After the 1 year of the crisis, the problem started in Al Yarmouk, and I have to fled me and my family from Al Yarmouk to another safe place in Syria too. So I fled to the place that was more safety, and when the start situation is gonna be bad more and more, I came with my family to Lebanon, and now we are living together with me and my family. And I'm working now to support my family and support my brothers and sisters.
And Ali, if I can ask you another question directly.
From the beginning, and I have small children. I have small brothers and two small sisters, so I have to work to support them.
Yeah. And how do you stay in touch with your friends in Syria?
I have a lot of friends now, until now, inside Alim camp. I don't know, they don't have food, but they have internet. I don't know how. They are in very bad situation, actually.
They have internet, but no food, yes.
Yeah, they have, they have actually internet. So almost my day, I'm chatting with them, and they told me the situation. They are in really bad situation. There is no food because my place is under siege now. No food, no good water, medical. So I hope if it's gonna be better. Now there are more than 6,000 families are living there, and almost these families are in very bad situation. And I hope if next few days it's gonna be better for them, and Syria and all the refugees gonna be better and in their place.
Okay, thank you, Ali. I hope that everybody could hear you closely. The connection is a little bit bad to Lebanon, but let me just summarize quickly. Ali said that where he's from in the Yarmouk camp in Syria, that people don't have anything to eat, there is no food anymore, but miraculously they have internet, so he could stay in touch with them and chat daily. Okay, we got another question. Ali, this question is for you. It's a question about the refugee camp, and he is asking, do some refugees find independent employment inside or outside the Dadaab refugee camp? Is that possible? How are refugees basically sustaining themselves?
Actually, it's depend to the person, to the refugee, because I don't know how to explain it, but maybe people have native here. They come here and know people in Lebanon, and or a friend here. They are supporting them. So it depends how your relation with the people here.
Okay, thank you. And maybe I can ask Abdi the same question, that maybe he could tell a little bit from the Dadaab refugee camp. Abdi, how are refugees? Is it possible to find a job in Dadaab or outside of Dadaab, even in Kenya, as a Somali refugee?
Sorry, what have you said? Come again.
Yes, let me repeat you. T had asked via Twitter, via the Care Jordan Twitter account, whether it is possible to find employment, to find a job in Dadaab, or even outside of Dadaab, in the country of Kenya.
Yeah, it's possible to find a job outside Kenya. You can, after you complete university, just get a diploma or a degree, You can go back to your homeland and get job opportunity. That's then how you can sustain your living standard from your family. You can get a job outside from Kenya.
Okay. And maybe you could also tell us a little bit more about, you said, I mean, you came 20 years ago to Dadaab, so you probably can't remember, you were 3 years old, but maybe like, how did your family at that time flee Somalia?
Yeah, you're right. I was very young when I was just coming here. I was just 3 years old. But my mother told me that we were just used on food for 3 days. Then came the border of Kenya and Somalia, a town called Liboyo. We have been there at Resort for almost 1 month. After that, we were just paying back take back to an Ipo, the refugee camps where we are in 1991. But you know, on the way, it was very difficult, as my mother told me. We were just on foot for 3 days to the border. That you can understand that how it's difficult. Someone was just using on foot, and it was drought. Then you can understand how it was very difficult. Really, we were just using our foot just for 3 days. It was very difficult.
Okay, and maybe do you still have family in Somalia, or is your entire family in Dadaab with you?
Yeah, since 1991, we didn't went back to Somalia. Still, we're living here. I'm still living with my father and my mother. Still, I'm just living with my parents. Yet, we didn't come back to Somalia.
Okay. Thank you very much. So I have another question. That is a question for Nasreen and the Azra camp. Sophie is asking via Twitter, how good is the access to health, education, and other basic services in the Azraq refugee camp?
Yes, it's a very big city here. It has many small villages. There are many organizations, many schools. In every school, there are lots of students, Syrian students. So education is very nice.
Okay, thank you very much. And also a question for Nada. Nada, Emmanuel Krotsche is also asking if you are still in touch with your family in Syria. Nada, are you still there? Oh, we might have lost Nada connection. Oh, there she is. Let me go back to you, Nada. Did you hear my question?
Okay. Yes, yes. In fact, I can hardly keep in touch with my parents. I can only talk to them once a month, maybe, because they live in Aleppo and there is no net access there, and it's very difficult to have phone calls.
And if you get through to your family and to your friends, what do they tell you?
In fact, they are suffering a lot. Sometimes they don't have water for more than 10 or 15 days, no food, no bread, no medicine, and they can't have normal life because there are a lot of heavy weapons there.
Thank you very much, Nada. And we can't see you very well, but I hope that I could hear you very clearly. I hope that the audience could do the same. We have another question. Actually, also, I'm going to ask this to you, Nada. There's a question from Wolfgang, and Wolfgang asks, people around the world often feel helpless when listening to the news on Syria. What can you advise to them? How can people around the world help people affected by the Syria crisis? Would you have any idea, or would you have anything to advise?
If they can raise their voice and ask their governments to do something to stop war in Syria. In addition, people in Syria need a lot of help, medical help, education. Children there lost their schools. There are no hospitals, and moreover, the first thing which can stop uh, their pain is to stop war.
Okay, thank you very much, Nada. I'll have another question for Nasreen, for Azrak. Nasreen, there is a question from Marielle from the Netherlands. Did you ever expect to be in a situation like this? I guess this is probably a very difficult question to ask, but did you ever, I mean, when the conflict started in Syria, did you ever expect that you have to leave your country? Nasreen, can you hear me?
No.
Oh,
Yes.
okay. Sorry, let me repeat again, sorry. There was a question asking whether you ever expected to be in a situation like this. So when the conflict started in Syria, did you ever cross your mind that you would have to flee? Or how long did it take you basically to leave Syria?
All my life, I don't expect to leave Syria. I don't leave Syria in any way.
Yeah.
So war in Syria is very, very horrible views. So plane and short and any other harm is expected in Syria.
Okay. Thank you very much. I have just a question coming in that I think is particularly very interesting, given that I work for an NGO or an aid organization. There's a question coming in through Twitter saying, relief organizations always seem to have plans on how to respond to a crisis. But what would you do, or what would you do differently if you would be a director of a relief agency? So I'm going to ask this to Ali. Ali, are you here still with us? Ali? Can you hear me? We might have lost Ali. So I'm going to ask you, Nada. You're the next closest to me. Nada, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Did you hear my question?
In fact,
Differently, if you were a director of a relief organization.
In fact, it's very difficult to be in such a position because people need a lot. They have nothing when they come to another country. They left everything behind them. They have no shelter, no food, no nothing. They just have nothing. If I were, I think I'll try to do my best to help them.
Okay, thank you very much. I have a question.
I hear you now.
Okay, Ali, great.
Yeah.
I know that the connection to Lebanon is very difficult.
I'm sorry about it.
So shall I ask the question again, or did you hear me?
No. Can you say it again?
Okay, there was a question. They ask, let me just read it out for you. Relief organizations always seem to have plans how to respond to a crisis. But what would you do, or what would you do differently if you would be a director of a relief agency? So imagine if you would be the director of care, what would you do differently to help Syrians in need?
I think I have to give the refugees the first things important as the food, as the water, as the health, to support them in these things, and after I will start to go to support the education and to support these people and give them a place to stay in and give them shelter, a good shelter to stay in, because almost the refugees doesn't have all of these things. So after 2 or 3 years from maybe Syrian crisis, it's gonna be more badly the situation. So we have to looking for these things at the beginning.
Thank you, Ali. I have questions for Abdi now. Abdi from Somalia. Abdi, Sabine is asking, what memories do you have of Somalia?
Come again.
Sabine asks, what memories do you have of Somalia?
Yeah, and when it comes memories, really, I just remember a lot of things. When I was just coming to here, I was very young, surely. I was just 3 years. But when I see that Somalia flag, how it was peacefully from before 1991, when I just see these things, I feel very sorry about it. That's the worst thing that when I just get flashback. That's the worst thing that I have always.
And you said earlier that it is your hope to go back to Somalia one day with your family. What would you think? What should the world do more to support that hope for Somali refugees in Kenya?
They just look for negotiation among the Somali tribes who are just in conflict and those things. The world uh, mm, world countries, Suba countries should give consideration to Somali people who are just fighting. Here, there are just 500,000 of Somalis that we have here in the Dadaab refugee camps who are just, suffering a lot. Then it's good to give consideration Somali country, at least, and to get back the central government that control the entire country and get peace and prosperity of the country. I could have advice like that for the world.
So at the moment, there are more than 300,000 people living in the Dadaab refugee camp, right? That number has increased to around almost 500,000 in the year 2011, when there was this terrible famine in several parts of Somalia. So there are refugees living in the Dadaab refugee camps for 20 years. So there are more people who just came in 2011. And you especially are working with a lot of young people, I presume, given that you are teaching IT and technology. So what is the youth? I mean, you yourself are very young. So what is the youth thinking of the world outside? Do they feel often that they're kind of forgotten?
Most of youth here, they think about education. That's the most thing that they give. For those refugees who are just here, they only live in this hostile environment. As you have heard, northeastern province is a hostile environment where people are very difficult to live. Then those youth who are just here, their only aim is just to get education and how to sustain their living standard. As you get education, that's when you can sustain a living standard. As I've said, I came here when I was just very young, 3 years old. I just went primary education, then high school. After completed high school, I'm just learning university. Then I get job opportunity care. I just work care now, and then that's how I sustain my living standard and also the living standard of my family. Then education is the only key that you can sustain your living standard. Then the youth have the aim of to learn education. If they go back to their homeland, there's no education. Then they're just giving consideration only the education. That's why they live in this hostile environment.
Thank you, Abdi. And as Abdi said, education is the key. And I would presume that you, Nasreen, in Azraq would especially also agree with that because you're a teacher, right, Nasreen? You're teaching children in, you're a volunteer teacher in the Azraq camp, right? You just started teaching. What do, how are small children, especially in Azraq camp, who had probably traumatic experience, what do they tell you as their teacher about their terrible experience?
They told me that they lived in a sad experience in the way of traveling Syria and in the camp because everyone lost one of his family or her family. So I see in the age of everyone sad tears, tears, and one of my girls in the special way told me that she lost all of her family in attacking. So
yeah, these are some clearly very sad stories to hear. But you're with your son in the Azraq refugee camp. Are you teaching your son also? Is he getting an education?
yeah, my son study here. He is 11 years. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. We've got another question that just came in, and actually I think I'm going to ask all of you that because you might have, well, maybe you have the same answer, or maybe you have very different answers. So let me start with Nada. Nada, what do you think you have in common with other refugees, not just with Syrian refugees, but also with refugees like Abdi in Kenya?
Sorry?
There was a question that asked, what do you think you have in common? What are the commonalities between you and other refugees? Not just refugees from Syria, but also refugees in other parts of the world, like Abdi, who is from Somalia and who lives in Kenya. What do you think are the similarities between all of you?
We all hope to go back to our home to live peacefully and to have a good life as refugees, since we are now refugees. Education is very important for everyone because it will help us in the future.
Okay, thank you very much. And I excuse to the audience, the video is not very good at the moment, so we could only see Nada's little holding picture. Nasreen, I'd like to ask you the same question. What do you think you have in common with other refugees around the world?
In any country, I think that refugee is very sad because because he needs many of things that he didn't see. He didn't find them in another country except his country. So I want to tell you about hard views in Syria. We see them.
Okay, thank you very much. Ali, I'm also going to ask you that question. What do you think you have in common with other refugees around the world?
Just I want to say for all the refugees in the world, a big love for them. I hope all the people back to their home, and as Nasreen said, the most important for us is to be more strong and to be something in the world, we have to learn, and doesn't matter about our situation, we have to learn and to be in a good place, and because the people have to see us, we are very strong, and we will be better as a refugees in all the world, and because nobody choose to be refugee.
Thank you very much, Ali. And now, Abdi, to you as well. What do you think you have in common with other refugees?
Yeah, we have a lot of similarities. The first one is all of us were refugee, and the second one is we live in a different country, which is not our homeland. Like me and also others, like all of us, we're not just living our homeland, just we live in a different country. And the third one is just we are all of us, we're getting support from humanitarian organization. The other one also is uh, our country, it has been affected by civil war or drought. It means that we are just living in another country. That's the similarity or the common thing that we have all of us.
Thank you very much. And Abdi, another question for you. Are you in contact, or are you actually having close contacts with Kenyans in Kenya as well, or are you mainly just within the camp, and you're mainly just friends with Somalis in the camp as well, or is it possible for you also to leave the camp?
I normally just socialize with Kenyans. Now I work with the Kenyans, but no, it's not possible. I have to go outside the camp. It's not allowed. I have to go to outside the camp. But I always socialize with the Kenyans. I normally just discuss, but it's not possible. I have to move out of the camp.
Thank you very much. So I'm going to ask you all one last question, because then we are already up the hour. But there was one question, and I think that might be actually a good question to end this Google Hangout with. There was one question coming in asking, did you also experience some positive things as a refugee? Some things about maybe friendship or something that gave you hope? And could you tell that with us? And I'm going to again, I'm going to ask you, Nada, first, if you could tell us or maybe share with us if you have any story that is a bit hopeful or that gave you some good memories.
The good thing that I met a lot of new people. They are very nice. Many nationalities here live in Amman, in Jordan. I have new friends, and it's good to learn how to be stronger when you face a lot of problems. As a refugee, you will learn to be stronger and to face life.
Okay, thank you very much, Nada. Nasreen, do you have a positive or optimistic story to share with us?
Yeah, the good thing I see here is good friends from Jordan. I like them, and they like me. So so they want to help me and help Syrian people to live here in Azrak's camp.
Thank you very much. That's very good to hear. Ali,
Yes.
are you still with us, Ali? Okay, I apologize. It looks like we have lost Ali from Lebanon. So I'm going over to you, Abdi. Do you have a positive and optimistic story, a story to tell with us, share with us?
Really, today is a very important day. It's very interesting. Really, I never made any conference, internal conference like this to discuss someone in Jordan, someone in Syria, someone just in Kenya. It's very interesting, really. I could have said that this one is very important to me, but I want to share with the world that those refugees living in that camp have hope to go back to their homeland and peacefully prosperity in their homeland. And I have the positive thing is everyone here has an aim of getting education, and everyone is just thinking about that. After they get educated, they want to go back to their homeland and get peacefully and prosperity. That's the only thing that I will have said. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Abdi. I think these are very good words for the ending of our Google Hangout. I'd like to thank every one of you that you took the time to participate. I know that you all have your own very busy schedules. Some of you are working. And I think it was very good that you could be able to join us here today and that you could tell your stories and to tell the world that you have hope and that you have wishes to go back to your countries, and that we somehow all have to support you to do that. So I'd like to thank you very much for taking the time. I also like to thank all the care helpers in the background, which you don't see here, but who are there. That's Mahmoud, who helps out. That's Johanna. That's my colleague Rosie. So thank you very much for all preparing this Google Hangout. And thank you very much, audience. Thank you, all of you who are listening in, who ask questions, who are interested. Please keep interested and help that the world acts and that we don't forget all our refugees, 40 million around the world. Thank you.